Hey guys, welcome to Sopimix Studio Umbiamas, conectando Aruba com o mundo via vídeo podcasting. Conectar conosco, compartilhar ideias e histórias para nos inspirar e para nos abrir. Sopimix Studio é a plataforma de podcast na Aruba. Follow-nos no Facebook, subscribe no YouTube ou na plataforma de podcast preferida. Escute o podcast preferido que hora e onde está. Sopimix Studio, powered by Credits, botiu ideia? Credits educava e prepara a abo para ser um empresário exitoso. De business plan, guia personal e préstamo para negócio até com 100 mil forinhos. Bira para mês donho com Credits. Subway, passa na Subway para o sop, salada, wrap ou flatbread e mais fresco. Com 7 localidades ronde Aruba, nós está cerca de Ibo. Subway. Swing Masters, organizando events, conferences of weddings, Mr. de luz, sound, staging, DJ, trussing ou flat screen, Swing Masters está claro para ser boa fiesta um êxito. Swing Masters. E agora, Sopimix Studio é plataforma de podcast de Aruba, está apresentar.
Good afternoon.
Good morning if you just woke up on your Saturday.
Yes.
And welcome. We have a special guest today, Mr. Elthon Lampe. Welcome, Elthon. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good morning, guys. Thank you, Jean-Luc, for the invitation. Thank you, Bruce, for the invitation also.
Thank you for coming.
Doing good.
You're doing good?
Yes, like you said, we're going to have a lot of fun today, talking about tech,
Yeah.
all about that.
All the things we think is fun.
Yes,
just for our listeners, one of our earliest watchers has, of course, been Elthon. He always asks us a question and obviously shares passion for tech and the impact and the science fiction. Also, just on a side note, I always get a little message from Elthon from, hey, did you check out what's going to happen in the coming month in astronomy? I still owe you a picture, by the way, so I'm going to give it to Jean-Luc now. So good morning, everybody. My name is Bruce Harms. I'm a digital evangelist and a Cardano advocate and an overall enthusiast for technology. Jean-Luc?
My name is Jean-Luc. I am a student at the University of Aruba, and I've had an interest in tech my entire life.
And Elthon, can you tell us a little bit about you? What are you doing nowadays?
Yes, my background is electrical engineering. Right now, I'm the director of Activated Power. We sell everything about e-mobility. So we sell electric cars, we service electric cars, electric golf carts, step scooters. So we are all into e-mobility, and additional to e-mobility, we're doing what we call active innovation. And that is if a client wants to do a certain measurements of, let's say, the leveling of a tank or something, we can do that with Arduino, with microprocessor, and with the sensor and actuators. With the requirements of the client, what they want, and we can make it happen.
Oh,
nice.
Wow. We're going to have to explore that a little bit more. But before we do that, we have to give our shout out to our sponsors, Subway, and those are one of our main sponsors, together with Swing Masters and Credits. And, they make these podcasts possible where we can all get together and talk about our passions. And a shout out to everybody that is a member of Sopimix Studios. But Elthon, wow, mobility,
yes.
Right? I think that is super interesting. So before we continue today, we're going to be talking about a movie coming up,
yes.
Right? But it's an open forum. So you mentioned electric cars.
Yes.
And it's been on the news lately here on Aruba. I've heard our colleague Aldric, and they had one of the major distributors at a show, and they were kind of explaining their plan for electric cars. Do you import cars, or do you have your own line of products?
No, well, for products, e-mobility, step scooters, I sell the one wheel also, which is like a board with one wheel.
Nice.
Wow.
I have the dealership of all those brands. But since we started with pre-owned vehicles that we bring from the United States and the Netherlands, and we sell those cars, and we have dealership on chargers as well. So if you need charging stations for your home to charge the car faster, we do all that. So
Well, that's a
if you
pleasant
think
surprise.
electric vehicles,
Nice.
yes, if you think about electric vehicles, you have to think about activated power. So.
Absolutely. I went by the MFA in North. I needed a 5 guilder paper for our new foundation. And I noticed the station. And, now that I've always been a big fan of the rise of the electric vehicle, right? And I think there's an interesting documentary about that. Who killed the electric car? It's a free documentary, and it probably insinuates, corporate obstruction because they weren't ready for that. But Elthon, do you think Aruba could be for them, because they won't be creating any gas cars or traditional engines anymore, going up to 2030, right? So 2030, there's an absolute stop of production. How do you see, as a an ambassador of green energy, how do you see Aruba, its trajectory, and how long it will take until everybody's driving electric cars?
Yes, correct. Before we go into that, you mentioned about MFA. That's a charter that Activated Power donated to MFA to stimulate the market. So that was a project like 5 years ago. So
Wow.
yes,
I was looking at it like, I can't wait to charge my car there, because hopefully I'll have an office there soon. We'll see. But so that also comes from your company.
that's correct. Yes.
Wow, interesting.
The thing about moving into electric cars, first, it was all about the battery. The battery was the battery gives you range, but the battery was also expensive due to the manufacture of the battery with lithium ion and those things. But the prices are coming down. So just like solar panels. So it started like putting solar panels only into space stations because it was so expensive. But right now it's dirty cheap. So it's cheaper to produce energy with solar than with any gas available on the market.
Wow.
So that's already a plus, because we all know the problems that we have with global
energy,
warming,
global warming,
with fossil
absolutely.
fuels, burning fuels, etc. But right now, because of the demands of batteries, there's a lot of volume of scale companies like Tesla making gigafactory of batteries, and so the prices of batteries are coming down. And once the prices are coming down and the car has the same range as a conventional car, and because the electric car has so many efficiency, it's better.
It has its pros.
Correct.
Right. So
the conventional car cannot compete anymore with range, prices, speed, and everything. Electric car has already won. Let's put it that way.
surpassed.
So it will surpass the conventional car in any way. So in torque and everything, speed. So it's a matter of time. So batteries becoming cheaper, and it basically having a conventional car with fuel will be something that just
Nostalgia.
just nostalgia, because it doesn't make financial sense anymore. That's
Wow.
so that's why it's inevitable to move to electric vehicles. So
That's obvious. It's just that will it happen fast enough so we can really have that positive impact on global warming? Let me share with you what I've learned also. I've been always interested in creating, for example, a portable generator, right? So that you can charge it, and then when the electricity goes, and you can actually build that from materials you can buy at Dude Center. You just have to know how to do it. And the most expensive part was a lithium phosphate battery, right? Yes. And going a little bit deeper, is that going to be the main battery, you think, for most vehicles, a lithium phosphate battery, or are there other lithium phosphate 4? I think it was called LiFePO 4.
yes. LiFePO, yes.
LiFePO, yeah.
Yes.
Is that going to be the battery technology for the time being?
Well, no, that's the most popular. It's cheap. You find it everywhere. So in every device, mostly that needs a lot of energy. So not laptops, but let's say like a step scooter or some
Electric skateboard.
electric skateboards. All those batteries, if you open it up, you will see like a blue casing. If you open the blue case, you will get like small pen lights. I call it pen lights, and those are the LiFePO4 batteries.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere. So those batteries are the most common right now. But there's a lot of new technology in labs that that looks promising for batteries for the future. So as we keep improving this,
And the market keeps growing, and the I guess the market share will grow, and people will start adopting it. So mainstream adoption of the technology is already there, just not for transport, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. Jean-Luc, what do you think? Jean-Luc has been quiet for too much. You're like,
By the way, I like your shirt.
Thank you,
Video games, right?
Yeah. So for the viewers can see.
we've got a Star Wars one, video game one, and
Cardano, of course.
Cardano,
I
of course.
forgot to tell about myself that I'm a video games fan, retro. So I'm all into
retro.
Atari,
Yeah.
2600 till now. So I'm a very fan of video games. Too.
Oh, I have stories to tell about that one. Yeah, absolutely.
My thoughts is that the only issue that would be with electric vehicles would be the production of batteries, right?
Right.
And the fact that it is very difficult to recycle batteries once they go through their lifespan and their usage.
Yeah.
But luckily, as Elthon has mentioned, that there currently is a massive push to develop renewable battery technologies that can hold more energy, or be more rechargeable, or be more recyclable. There's a bunch of incentive right now.
You know, Jean-Luc taught me a word a couple of days ago, Elton. He taught me the word, what was it? Forced, when they make products to fail.
Oh, planned obsolescence.
Planned obsolescence, you know, whereas...
Very academic.
Sounds very academic. Did you make that up, by the way?
No, I didn't coin it.
Okay. So that people, so companies make products for them to fail. And let's take, for example, a MacBook Pro, where is it planned? Actually, with a Mac, you actually get a lot of years out of it. So I'm used to a laptop staying functional for about 7 years, as long as I don't break it. I break them before they cease to function. But usually the OS stops supporting the hardware at some point.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the problem of that kind of stuff. But do they do that intentionally with electronics?
A key way to see that is that it's how difficult they make it for you to repair it, and how easily it can break as well.
Right.
Because if it doesn't break, sure, it's going to last a few years. But they purposely designed a few things. Like there was an example with a MacBook Air, where because of how they designed the motherboard, the chips, if you would put pressure on one side of the pad, not even the keyboard, not even the mouse, the pad, you could short circuit your computer.
Wow.
And they refused to change the circuitry that would immediately fix the problem, and instead gave temporary solutions or told you need to buy a new one. And that's an example of planned obsolescence.
Right.
They purposely designed it and refused to fix the issue, to improve it.
Yes.
Do you say this in your industry, right? So you have different types of and sizes of, renewable energy transport products. Well, how do they approach it in your experience, Elton? So do they make them that you can easily fix them and swap things out?
Yes.
So you can buy a scooter, and obviously the battery pack will it has a lifespan, and then just like our laptops, they go through maybe what is it, 20,000 cycles, and then it kind of loses performance, just like a solar panel does, right? So
Yes. Our products are modular. So
Nice.
if you go with a step scooter and you get like a battery problem, you bring your step scooter to us, and we'll change the battery.
right,
If you get problem with your controller, we change the controller. We change the tires, the motors, anything. So we can disassemble the step scooter into pieces and put it back together. So that's a good part that we offer our clients.
yeah,
And actually, we are getting clients that bought step scooters from other
other distributors or companies.
distributors,
Yeah.
and they come to fix it and service it at us. So
Nice.
the market is big. There's a lot of electric bikes also.
Yes,
bikes that you
yes.
can put like electric motor to assist. So we do all that. So it's our core business of repairing and servicing electric devices, especially mobility.
Yeah.
So yes, we do.
So that's like the technology that we have right now, right? But I have a very important question for you.
Yes.
Hoverboards when?
Hoverboards.
Hoverboards when?
Well, hoverboards. Well, actually, you can get a ride on hoverboard, but at special places that they have the whole. Let's see the
rail system.
Yes.
There's like a rail system.
Oh.
It's let's put it away. It's kind of a room. And the floors are made of magnetic magnetic force. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And the skate hoverboard is the magnetic force is pushing the hoverboard, so you can have this feeling of
Frictionless.
frictionless and all those. So who knows? Maybe once, I don't know, nuclear technology becomes nano, that you can have the force generated into the board itself, that they can push you with kind of gravitational
nano nuclear technology.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mini reactors
Yeah,
to power your hoverboard.
But yeah, that's if you're gonna talk about science fiction and possibilities. Everything is possible, but it's only time. We're not ripe for that yet. So
a great segue.
Exactly.
That's a great segue. Good job.
Yes.
Let me just. I want to say one last thing from the hoverboard. I think the problem was you had two types. He just talked about the room. The problem, like a skateboard, naturally gives direction because there's 2 points of friction. That's why the mono wheel is very interesting how they solve that. It's very intelligent stuff, right? So how it moves and how it curves. That there's a lot of design there. But a skateboard has 4 wheels, just like a car does. But I think like the traditional skateboard with those 2 holders, I think it's hard to keep direction if that's one of the problems. That's why they had another one with a rail system. So it stays over rails. Yes. But now talking about science fiction and what is possible, and I like to indicate why I think we all here are science fiction fans, because somehow we kind of know that maybe it could be possible. For example, when we look at Star Trek, from the 1950s, where they had these communicators like this, and a tricorder in their hands, and the tricorder could we're already there, pretty much, with our smartphones.
Yeah.
Our smartphones have a gyro, and it has GPS, and it has a camera, and it can augment reality, and it can give you information straight from a semantic web, right? So that's an example where our imagination turned into a reality, right? And, I think when you think about space, right? So Star Trek tried to at least keep some of it realistic as time went by. The later generations, Star Trek Next Generation, I think this had a science fiction advisor, a science advisor, right? So the new iterations of Star Trek, if we go back and see the sources of science fiction, who is the original, who created the template for Star Wars and Star Trek, really? In fictional form, books. I think we can give it to Asimov.
Yes.
Right? Asimov. And my dad is a big fan. And going now to Dune, Frank Herbert. Yes. Frank Herbert's epic book called, and here I'm going to go right into it, Elthon. Yes. Here it is for the camera. Jeff, you can put it on me for a second. This is the Frank Herbert's new publication or new design. And it's actually been published this way with the upcoming new movie by Denis Villeneuve. And have you ever seen do you know the older motion pictures of Dune? Have you seen those?
The one of 1983 for sure.
Yeah.
And, Dune is a very interesting philosophy also. No? I hope the movie will bring that forward. So... yeah, if I allow to tell, the one of the part of Dune is that...
Spoiler warning?
It's not a spoiler, but it's like Dune is happening in the future.
Of course,
It's not a fictional place, it's just in the future. So, and they tell about the history that the machines, people was
so dependent.
So dependent on machines that the machines are doing everything. And the ones that controls the machine controls the wars and everything. So they reach a point that they say, okay, let's ban the machine and let's do this ourselves as humans. Let's progress ourselves. But the human were not capable of doing that. Only by stimuli, by using like a kind of drug. And that drug is the main thing about June, because that's what they call at the June the spice, the melange. And that's the stimuli that if a human gets that spice, it will get like superpowers. They get smarter. They can do a lot of things, and then they can do like space traveling arithmetics in their heads.
Wow.
So they can surpass this machine. So that's the core, I think, that I would like to see that in the new movie.
I think you hit it on the head. You hit it on the head, because what is so amazing of Frank Herbert's universe of Dune is he tackled a couple of things. Frank Herbert, I dove a bit deeper and I tried to see interviews of him talking. He was a passionate advocate for against and transitioning away from fossil fuels a long time ago, 1970s. And he always said it is ridiculous that we continue to act like this is not a bad idea. This is a bad idea. And if you look at how he built this world, he actually builds political geographic power combined with technology, all fighting around the spice melange, which is the most valuable commodity in the universe, because you need it for trade. And if you don't have it, you can't have trade. And if you can't have trade, you don't have universalization. You don't have power. And that's a one-on-one copy of oil, right? So OPEC shares CHOAM. Because I read some bits. CHOAM in his universe is the organization of travel and logistics, and sort of copies OPEC. And what's also interesting, going back, he's right. Dune is 10,000 years in the future.
10,000.
10,000, about approximately. That's where this book starts. And that is after the Butlerian Jihad, is what they called it, is where there was a war against machines. So think about the Matrix, for example. It could have been the Matrix. And very interesting, they banned thinking machines, just to add on a little detail. And you could use machines, but they couldn't be sentient. They have to be tools. And he's right. Because of necessity, he explores ecology forcing evolution. That's right. So, Dune, and let's go a bit further. And this is a little bit of a spoiler, but we don't want to talk about the story. We can talk about the science fiction aspect of it. Dune is a desert planet, and they don't know why. That's where Melange is, and it's the only planet in the world.
Wow.
And the people that live there, the indigenous people, are suppressed by the powers that be.
Oh, wow.
And then an epic journey begins. But again, that also, there's a lot of mirrors, like the Native Americans, right? The powers come, and they have weapons, and it's a very interesting thing. And you're also right. Let's go back to the 1983 movie. What did you think? How did you experience that movie, Elthon? From, I think it was Laurentiis, right?
Yes. The 1983 movie right now is on Netflix, so I saw.
Oh, you just saw it again?
Yeah, I saw it again, and I think it's one of the few movies that Sting, the singer Sting of the Police, is.
He's in it. Sting is he's the bad guy. Yeah, he's one of the bad guys. Yeah.
Nice.
From the house. And here's the interesting thing: some people spell it or pronounce it Harkonnen. Or in the movie, it was Harkonnen, right? And basically in this universe, these powerful dynasties fight each other, these planets. And House Atreides is the protagonist, and then House Harkonnen are the bad guys. And Sting was one of the, I think it's the Fade,
yes.
Yeah, and they have an awesome knife fight in the end of the movie. I have to say, that movie, I watched it, I think about 200 times in my life. 200, 300 times. I've seen it many times. My dad, I grew up with lots of books, and my dad is also a fan. So I read Dune a long time ago. I just started reading it, and I'm like, no, don't. I don't want to know the book too well. I want to kind of leave some space for this movie.
For this movie, yes.
But let's talk about. So, do you believe that that's possible, you guys? So, can you imagine, in the world of Dune, a specialized person with enough training and enough time has gone by has learned to master all the way to cellular level your body what you want it to do. So that's one of the powers of the Bene Gesserit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They have the power to, example, decide if they get a girl or a boy
Wow.
by pure training. And then you have other groups that are mentats, and they are basically thinking computers. They've taught themselves how to become supercomputers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they have a job as a strategist, right? So they can, what they do is, just like an AI does, predict your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also other ones that are chameleons. They're face dancers, and the Benny Lilacs.
Yeah. I think in 10,000 times, it could be enough time for the human species to
branch off.
Branch off into a more spiritual, a more
Technical.
and so it happens with evolution everywhere. So you can see like a different type of birds,
Yeah.
different colors. So,
And that's the interesting thing, if you go back into the book, the Fremen that live on Dune, that live on very, 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 very little water, and what that creates in a whole culture, that's what makes this book interesting.
how they adapted, huh?
How they adapted.
Survive on a dry.
Dry, and so they have these it's a little bit of a spoiler, but it will not tell you the story.
Mm-hmm.
They have something called a still suit, and the still suit is let's imagine a wetsuit that its sole job is to conserve all your loss of water.
Recycling, it's recycling everything.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
They don't lose
You don't
water
waste.
at all.
No waste at all.
No waste at all. So when they're walking, they're capturing water.
Mm-hmm.
They're capturing water. When they breathe, they're capturing water. So they become super efficient with water
Conservation.
conservation.
Yes.
Nice.
And also in their culture, in their religion, they have honorable fights over water, right? So
Oh.
the water is never yours. Your water is
Mm-hmm.
not yours. Your water is the tribe's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something to be wasted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's this amazing part of culture where I forgot his name, Atreides, Paul, meets one of the Fremen leaders, and he spits on the ground.
Oh.
And it's sacrilegious.
And yeah, so
Yes.
well, we all as viewers, you're like, what? What's an insult? And then Paul comes in, thank you for your gift of water. So in their culture, it was a sacrifice for the appreciation of the meeting. And that's the interesting mind of Frank Herbert, to culture shock you, that things can be really different everywhere in the world. And that's what I think is interesting. Me and Elton are obviously the two guys that love this universe.
I didn't read it. No.
Yeah, you have no idea what's coming.
I'm the viewers in this scenario, but I'm sitting here instead.
And what I think is interesting is that this book is also in the 100 books you have to read before you die, as well as a science fiction book. But it's also a must read in the 100 books you need to read, like George Orwell, Mice of Men, and The Grass is Singing. All these books we had to read at school. In our day, we had to read a lot of books for English.
I also needed to read a lot.
Yeah.
I read Mice of Men, and I've read To Catch a Mockingbird, but just not Dune.
The Catcher, that's a good movie and book.
And book, yes.
So, the new upcoming movie, what makes it extra special is
Special effects.
well, no, not only, of course, but we have the technology to actually be able to display it kind of well,
Yeah.
and with the right storytelling. But going back to that first movie, there were a lot of differences, so they couldn't do it, So they did a sound module thing for them as a weapon. It was very interesting, well done. The sandworms were pretty good. The feeling was good, but it wasn't very technological, And they actually tried a miniseries, which I was also a fan of, Dune. And then even I have the other book. This is the also part of the universe. Jeff, can you catch it for me?
The children.
The children of Dune, because in the Dune verse he gets children.
Oh.
And one of them actually, you know, that's and his story spans over 100,000 years.
Wow.
The Dune verse, and let's not give that away. But I mean, look at the styling of back then. So this is a book print from the 70s or 80s, and I'm hoping that the movie is so successful that we get to see it like the Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Spin-offs get spin-offs, and get the whole new universe about Dunes. Yeah, that's correct.
And by the way, this movie is the first half of the book.
Oh.
It's not even the full book.
Oh. How many hours?
It's 2.5 hours.
Of course, it's gonna be like
Huge.
It's going to be epic.
It's gonna be epic.
It's going to be epic. Because remember, do you know Blade Runner?
I do know Blade Runner.
Okay, do you know the original Blade Runner?
No.
That's a cult classic.
Uh-huh.
It's the story of again, here we go, androids fighting for their right to coexist with humans, basically. It's androids saying, you know what? We're sick of being slaves. We also have feelings, you know? And it's the story of one of their own, pretty much, trying to kill the rest of them. And Blade Runner 2045. Did you guys see it? Did you see it?
That one I didn't see.
No.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. But hard to stomach because you have to understand science fiction a bit. You have to be in that world because it's very sad, really. Because in this story, it is suggested that one of the androids procreated. And that's what they're looking for. And there's a hyper powerful owner of the corporation that actually now wants that to become the super race. But he wants the child. And what the androids want is that the child is like, so here we go again, that child story, that golden emperor child, you know, very interesting. But the music and the scenes, it's amazing. And then when I found out that same director is going to handle, you know, Dune, I'm thinking it's going to be epic. So are we going? Should we go together? And
Yes.
We have an IMAX now.
I hope it's gonna be in IMAX. I think so. Yeah.
I checked it out this morning just for the show, and it's going to be on the 21st of October.
Oh.
Nice.
So we have to be really careful with our algorithms on YouTube.
And not getting spoilers.
Yeah.
Well,
They already
we
heard
we
us.
know the stories already, but still, you don't want to get too much.
I don't think you will be able to escape the common curse of the book was better.
Yeah, and you know, I thought it would be interesting to explore why I think now, I mean, when we talk about the original movie in 1983, the first thing we remember, and he's right, is, oh yeah, that's the movie that Sting was in. Because that's super special, because Sting doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's been in 2 or 3 other movies as cameo, like he jumps in, but here he actually acted as an enemy, as a knife fight and everything.
Wow.
He was a Harkonnen. And interestingly, the Harkonnens in most depictions are red-haired. They have red hair, yeah. And I think now, again, they have one of I think he's from Sweden, one of the most famous actors from there is Skarsgård. And he's good, and he's going to be Baron Harkonnen. And remember, Baron Harkonnen he looks nasty, right? In the book, he's a fat, flying, you know, he flies around, he's a sadistic, masochistic.
Ew.
He's everything you hate in humanity, right?
Cool.
And
the movie of Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
And you have Angel and Demons. Angel,
Right.
Well, the police, the Swiss police was
that was Skarsgård, yeah. His 2 kids, actually, one of his youngest sons just did It, the clown.
Oh.
And the other son was a very prominent character in True Blood, you know, the vampire series. He was one of the vampires. And he actually has a really good movie about they suggest he's sort of a werewolf. Anyway, but I want to go back now to the amazing cast that is in Dune, right? So we have a couple of things going on. So we've got Skarsgård, amazing. But now let's talk about the House of Atreides. They brought in the best of the best. So we have Josh Brolin, which was Thanos, right? He was Thanos.
Wow.
But you know, Josh Brolin is a very versatile actor. He can be many things. He can be a bad guy. He can be a good guy. You know,
and Men in Black He was the young.
Oh yeah. He was.
Remember? And
Yeah,
he was very like a serious.
very serious, very corporate.
No jokes. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite movies of all time that I can always rewatch because it's so well written is A Country of Old Men. You know, by the twin brothers. That's a story of a cowboy finding drug money and is now being pursued by a very sociopathic, eccentric hitman. And that actor, I forgot his name for 1 second, but let me look him up. Was Javier Bardem, and he had this weird hair. You know, he had like this hair like this, and he was a very strange killer, you know. And one of the most famous scenes in The Country of Old Men is the quarter.
The quarter.
The quarter, where a guy he starts talking about a quarter, and we know that if the guy doesn't give him the right answers, he's going to kill him. You know, and basically it was a coin toss, right?
Wow.
And he would do things like this, come like a cop, and he would hold a tank, and then he would just tell somebody, hold still, and the guy would hold still, and then he would put the thing and kill him like he would kill a cow. So it's very interesting. It's sort of a case study on what a sociopath is.
And
Master
can do.
manipulators.
Yeah.
Right? Interesting. That movie has Josh Brolin and Javier. They're back
Nice.
in this movie together. They're again working together. So Javier is Stilgar, and Josh Brolin is I forgot the character's name, but he's the master sergeant of the House Atreides, and actually he has a lot more to the story. You know, he's going to be.
That's in the Star Wars, Poe, right? Poe, that Rey.
Ray.
And Poe is the one that's recklessly driving. That's the father of Poe. Paul Atreides.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It looks older.
No, but let's talk about Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. Yes.
If you're a science fiction movie fan, Oscar Isaac should be in your radar. Oscar Isaac did one of my favorite all times indie science fiction movies called Deus Ex or Ex Machina. Ex Machina. Yeah, that was an amazing movie where he was sort of Google's genius. He was a genius that created something like Google, and he used that same semantic internet to create the AI of an android. And they were doing that test. There's like this test you can do.
Turing test.
There you go. That's why Jean-Luc is Jean-Luc. Explain us the Turing test, Jean-Luc, if you can.
I'm not necessarily sure about how exactly the Turing test itself is supposed to be, go through.
Related to Alan Turing?
Yeah, exactly. Alan Turing was the inventor of the Turing test, of course. Yeah. And the goal and the purpose of the Turing test is to be able to identify whether an AI can be passed as a person.
Yes.
And how they would do this is they would have the judges, a few people, talk to a person and talk to some AIs.
You got it, buddy.
If they can't tell the difference, then the AI passed the Turing test.
And let me quote it from Wikipedia. The Turing test, originally called the imitation game by Alan Turing. So you were both right. I did not know that.
The decoder, the famous decoder.
The famous that's that
Enigma,
other movie.
Enigma. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Yeah, that's a great movie. The guy
Really?
that
He
decodes
made-
the
Guys, we're geeks. It's official. Well, let me quote it. The Turing test, originally called the imitation game by Alan Turing in 1950, is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human.
Yeah.
And interestingly, going back to Oscar Isaac, he brings in one of his workers that's interested in AI, and he goes through this test. And interestingly, and I'll spoil it a little bit, is that the android actually manipulates him masterfully, making him believe that they're in love. And she not only passes the Turing test, in one swift event, is obviously a little bit more capable, is already superhuman.
Yeah.
Because she tricks them all and escapes into the world, and nobody will be able to tell that from her, you know? So you could have made a second movie. And like you mentioned, Oscar Isaac is also, you know, part of the Star Wars universe. So if you think about it, Deneviev, what he's putting together is he's all in. And the studios have taken a risk, and they've told him, let's see how this plays out, and we might let you do a second movie. And then let's talk about the man himself. He comes from Aquaman, from the DC universe. Jason, Momoa, every single woman's heartthrob. Okay, girls, just let's go watch with your husband. You'll have something to look at. You know, he's big, strong.
Tattooed.
He's the famous Duncan Idaho. And Duncan Idaho, it goes across all books of Frank Herbert and spans further into the universe of his son, Brian Herbert. And, you know, I'm sorry, Brian, you know, we appreciate what you're doing, but you don't have it, buddy. Well, you have some of it. So Brian actually wrote the prequel books of the Batarian Jihad, and he wrote books about the House Atreides before. So he did a lot of pre-work together with another writer. But I've read them, and it doesn't have what these have. These have a certain raw emotion and complexity that I enjoy. But last and not least, I want to talk about Paul Atreides, the actor. Do you know you know that actor? Timothy Chalamet?
No.
Timothy Chalamet, I checked him out. He has been around. You just didn't notice him. I noticed him in the movie called The King when he plays Henry IV. And it is a very, very visceral experience. I highly recommend, if you are waiting for Dune, go check out that movie, because you are transported into a world that seems realistic. So he's a son of a usurper king of an England just born.
Wow.
That's when they all came together, and how he struggles with that, and how he goes to war with France. And there's a lot of manipulation. And if you have a mind understanding how people pursue power, you can keep watching it, because the actors did an amazing job. The fight scenes are crazy. We're talking about full armor in the mud, 300, 900 people on screen. There's no CGI that can be detected. It looks all filmed. And let me tell you, this young guy, he is like pure emotion. He is nice. You can feel him, you know, when he just looks at you sometimes. So most of the scenes is without talking. And I think a guy with that capacity is gonna be the Paul Atreides that we've been waiting for, because Paul he's sentient. He has dreams. He doesn't know he has dreams. He doesn't understand the dreams. What is this? What's going on? Spice melange, right? And let's get to the last part. The leading lady, the two leading ladies, the mom, right, and Jessica Ferguson. Very cool. She looks like Bene Gesserit. But let's talk Zendaya.
Zendaya.
Do you know Zendaya?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, she, of course.
From Disney.
She's from Disney, and she's from Spider-Man Homecoming. But you know, I actually, with Jean-Luc's recommendation, I saw Euphoria, which is an HBO small suburb drama. What I think is interesting of Euphoria, just like The Sopranos, there was a lot more going on in the stories. So, for example, in this story, they talk about, you know, they put on screen as a theme sexuality and how sexuality is dealt with in the suburbs, and how the conventions get destroyed. How people pretend a lot to be happy, but mostly the drug problem, the opioid issue that is apparent in the States, that is put boldly on the screen as a problem. You know, that she actually got drugs because of therapy way too young and ended up being addicted, and now deals with that addiction with her main life. Zendaya is also very versatile. She can be a very serious drug addict looking, you know, really rough, but she can be beautiful, you know, sexy, and
she's a good actress.
She's an amazing actress, and
young,
I mean,
a lot of potential future films.
And what's interesting, if you look at their history, especially Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya, they've got the credentials. They went to art schools. They were in shows. They have done as much work as any other actor, except they're younger. You know.
So Dune has an elite cast.
Yes.
They have an elite cast. they all already come from major blockbuster productions,
Successful films and
successful
series.
films. The King was a major production. That was not small fry. And we've got a director that actually went to Jordan for real, to a real desert.
Oh.
And they suffered so they can get the emotion out. And if you hear them, they're like, no, we were in the desert. We were suffering. We were not in some CGI little green screen studio.
Green room, yeah.
And I think that if you put that kind of work, where you're gonna have something special. And last but not least, also they have Van Zandt. I think his name is Van Zandt for soundtrack. And I just saw the documentary, or not the documentary, sort of a teaser. What they did, they tried to create new instruments. So they created instruments so they can sound different. So they created instruments and then learn how to play them so they can create the sounds.
So that it's like Alien. So that's 10,000 years into the future.
That's the problem with certain science fiction movie. You listen to the music now, it's like, oh, sounds like 1980s drum track, you know?
Yeah.
The Blade Runner suffers from that a bit.
I know those chords. A thing I wanted to talk about really briefly is the fact that Dune is responsible for science fiction as we know it and understand it, right?
It is, well, yes and no.
For when a lot of people hear sci-fi, they think Star Trek, they think space, they think lightsabers and laser guns and force fields.
If I may add, Star Trek and Star Wars are more alike. Like they can travel in spaceships and moving from light speed and this. I think Star Trek can bend time as well, right? But Dune is a special way of travel, but that's you have to wait for the movie.
Yeah.
How they do something to do space traveling. So
that's the main driver of conflict, right? So when we watch movies, the narrative has to have a friction, right? So you need friction, and we want resolve.
Yeah.
So you wake up, you don't know where you are, and you don't remember anything, and then we're interested. Oh, how is he going to get out? What's going to happen to him, right? And in this world, inderdaad, Star Trek and Star Wars share beyond speed of light travel capability. Yeah. But it is action-packed because they actually have to do it. They have to go boom, and they have to go there, right? And in this world, there's no attention to that. There's only attention to, okay, it's all centered around one planet. Yeah. Sort of like when we were fighting for oil. And the action will be the geopolitical conflict that's happening, and the political conflict, and then the deals that are made, and the armies, and it's gonna be a little bit different. But one thing's for sure: Dune and Tatooine, going to Star Wars. That's where maybe the inspiration should be. That the movie starts. So Star Wars, the original release, the first movie that was ever released, starts in a place where they're water farming. Which is very close to what Dune is about. Dune is about water conservation.
And still, they say that Star Wars was after Dune. The books were
the books were before Star Wars, so it probably did, inspire at least.
Inspire Star Wars.
Sure. Yes. I mean, Tatooine is different. The animals, the ecology wasn't important in Star Wars, but the ecology in Dune is very important. And that let's go there for a second. What I thought was interesting is that on the wiki of Frank Herbert, there are a number of key themes. For example, why does humanity trust one person all the time? What does that really mean? And he explores that. For him, this is not his first book. All first 3 books was the book. Yes. And the journey of this charismatic leader is going to keep going. He doesn't stop to, let's say he comes to a certain goal. He doesn't look at it that way. It will continue. And then, is it sometimes a good idea just to trust one vision of one leader? And usually the answer is no. He actually said that my journey is a warning. Yes. But at the same time, we're going to have a great story to look at, and that's the thing. Usually, like for example, let's take an extreme example. Genghis Khan. Yeah. Right? Genghis Khan. lot of blood, of a lot of suffering, but then came the era of peace under Kublai Khan. And then Kublai Khan continued conquest. And Kublai Khan got all the way to the doors of China, and he spread all the way to Europe. Yeah, that was the Khans, right? And there was a time of peace and culture and growth and art. But again, another war was coming.
Yeah.
And they actually started killing each other, and then because of their culture, because of assassinations, it kind of imploded.
Yeah.
Right? And now that legacy is gone, except for the DNA that they can track, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that Frank Herbert's theme is human survival and evolution. How survival pushes evolution. And if you can take a look at how, for example, Australia is configured, that's how he's looking at it, the specialized animals there, and what happens when something comes in and invades.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going to happen in the future. Like Dune is Dune until, it's been affected by outside forces.
Yeah.
And also, of course, ecology and the relationship between sanity and madness.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because Frank Herbert did not believe in the industry of psychiatric help.
Oh.
He thought it was way too abstract to narrow down you're normal, you're abnormal. He didn't agree with that. He said, the most eccentric people gave us the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gave us art, gave us, equations. And I think that's an interesting to look at because, I have an autistic son, right? And what we've learned is that you have to approach it open-minded.
Yes.
And throw away your conventions and fit to him or her, and you might get some good results. As in, you want people to be social.
Yeah.
You want them to participate. You want them to defend themselves and understand humor and whatnot.
A thing we also have to keep into account is probably the state that psychiatric help was at the time that he was writing this. Back in the day, it was crazy. We have advanced quite a bit from the past attempts at attempting to help people psychiatrically.
Absolutely.
You mentioned about crazy, and I just my mind went to the Apple. They had an ad like for the crazy ones.
The crazies.
For the crazy ones, they talk about the misfits and those things.
Yeah.
And at the end, they say we can do anything, vilifying them, anything, but we cannot ignore them. Because those that think they can change the world, they can change the world, are the ones that do. So the eccentric ones are the ones sometimes that everyone say that guy's is crazy, but those are the visionaries. Maybe they're thinking beyond what's everybody thinking, and we think of them as crazy, but they are the ones that pushing.
Yeah, Steve Jobs is kind of that example. The thing is, do we look at people and judge them? How do we judge them? So Steve Jobs was as we can kind of deduce, he was a shitty father. He was an amazing visionary, but not a very nice guy at sometimes, right? And was not afraid to get his hands dirty and experiment. Like I'm sure that Elthon knows is that when Apple started growing and went open and went public, he actually created two teams to fight each other.
Yes.
So you had the Apple team and you had the Macintosh team, right? And then they would have to develop products.
But that's still a marketing tool of a big company. They create like a skunk group department that try to cannibalize your product to see if they can come with something better, something different. Because otherwise you will get to comfy with your product and other will do it. So it's better to make a department that fight yourself. So you have ownership
competition.
of both, competition inside, than to have the competition outside.
So interesting.
That's what they did. And
interesting. No, but because again, if you look back, it's pressure. You need pressure.
Yeah.
If you have pressure, you got innovation. Look what COVID did to all of us.
Oh yeah.
You can become lazy and docile. And that also happens. So we'll see, going back to where we are now, circling back all the way to energy. It's going to be interesting, and I think it's great that you came here. We didn't know this. we didn't know that was your business right now. Because I'm going back. I remember Elthon was designing turbines.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did electrical engineer, and my last assignment was renewables. So that's why in 2000
Yeah.
when I finished, I did energy as my last
Specialization.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember I went to visit him with your mom, and I remember he had an emulator, and a Nintendo emulator, and I'm like, okay, I'm staying in, guys.
I'm staying
And
inside.
they went to do the thing, eat somewhere, and I'm playing Zelda, and what was amazing, I could save state. So I could actually get pretty far pretty quickly. So we were already gamers like that, because we could just, and for us it was crazy. Oh, we have a remote and we USB it, and on the laptop we can play any game we wanted that was ever made. So for us that were buying those games at 190 guilders, 150 guilders, that was amazing. So
and now we buy them for nostalgia. We don't do emulators anymore. We buy,
Yeah, you want to feel it.
You want to feel the consoles.
Or you do this.
Now the book has value. You say, you can get it on Kindle, but no, this is more it.
I want to hear the flicker of the books, the smell, the old paper smell.
I actually bought it 2 times over. I have the Dune Saga 2 times over because the paper they degrade.
They degrade, yeah.
That's the problem with paperback. But Elthon, let's do this. Can we invite you back, and could we maybe do a one wheel episode? That we even try it?
Yes, of course. Let's do that.
Let's do that. That would be really fun for us. Because we're actually working on something, a low voltage computer classroom. It's something we're working on, and this is going to be very cool. And by the way, do you use that yourself, the one wheel?
Yes, sometimes I go to the linear park and
you just go have fun.
Yeah,
nice.
Because I like to snowboarding for the last 10 years, 15 years, and the one wheel gives you the snowboard experience on land. So because you keep training your certain muscles.
Yeah, micro muscles.
But the muscles in the front, behind. And those are the muscles that you don't train unless you're a surfer. You're gonna do the one wheel like it's part of your fit.
I kind of hope.
If you're not a surfer, you're not a skateboarder, and you like snowboarding, then a one wheel is something that you can train your muscles. And so next time when you go snowboarding,
the first day is always bad.
Yeah.
I've done snowboarding as well. I did a 7-day trip in Val Thorens, France, Alps with the band. And as a surfer, the only difference snowboarding is when you're in velocity, it feels like surfing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more control you need. That really, when there's a cliff over there, you need that pressure, that heel pressure, and you can make mistakes. And I've done 10 cartwheels because I face planted hard.
Yeah, a mouthful of snow.
Yes, actually, it was yeah, it was bad. But going back to surfing, I actually wing now. I do foil winging. We'll talk more on that. But Elthon, it was a pleasure, and we would like to very soon, maybe in I hopefully have Steven Oosterwijk coming in. Hey, Stefan, if you're listening, I'm gonna call you so you can come next week and explain to us everything about Bitcoin. But yeah, let's do that. And what I'm thinking, what we'll do is we'll film a little thing, a little footage, and then we can onboard it on the show. So
we can do it 3 one wheels, and we go into the linear park, do some things, and then we show it in the program.
That'd be great.
I think it's very important to start showcasing that for the community, and that's why we're here.
Right.
That's why Tech Impact is here, and you have it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's super great. So let's give our thanks again to our sponsors, Subway, Swing Masters, and Credits. Shout out to everybody in the Soppy Mix family, and keep checking us out. Share with us, send us questions, and if you want to come here and talk about something that you think would fit this show, let us know. Elthon did, and it actually helps us because we try to create a content for you guys, but I want people to come. That's why Soppy Mix is here, right, Jeff?
Producer.
Thumbs up. All right, so Elthon, any last words? Do you want to tell something?
I would like to thank you guys for this program. It's an amazing program. I've been following you guys
Since the beginning.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
And I'm happy to be in the program and share
Ideas.
ideas. So whenever you need some topics or you want me to join the program, let me know.
Oh, we're gonna call you, buddy. We're gonna call you, and
Right.
thank you for being here. So,
If anybody has any other questions or requests
for the products,
for the
let
products or for us, we're going to be posting a Discord link in the chat for Facebook at the end of the show, and it will be available for the entire week when after this goes offline.
us know. All right, guys. Enough saludos, and we'll see you next time.
Right.
Right.